Hello everybody, welcome back to Coombe Valley Campers. This is part 2 of our T3 rebuild. This is the 1988 camper van that we've shown you before, and what we've got to do today is do a little bit of vehicle archaeology. We're going to be digging out every last piece of this van before we can start rebuilding it. So we're going to be tearing down the headliner, removing the old rock and roll bed, giving it a good clean, seeing what we've got, and then making plans for the next stage, which is going to be sound deadening. And I know you've all seen that before, but this time it's going to be slightly different because we've got some brand new products to show you. First thing we're going to do today is tear out this rough old bed. Now this is maybe a 30-year-old rock and roll bed. I'm sure the material wasn't that colour when it was first made, but as I said in the previous video, the customer wants to retain this fabric. We're going to clean it up and maybe going to have some cushions made out of it just to keep a couple of those original features of the vehicle. So first things first, clean out the van, tear this bed out. We're going to have some replacement seats in this van, and they are Caravelle seats from a later T3, and they're the blue version. And so what we've had to do is find some materials that are going to kind of match those, and courtesy of David Powell next door, we found these two. So Seb, if you're watching, they're the materials. I'll talk to you about it later. But yeah, so we're going to be retrimming the rear cushion for the rock and roll bed, the Rusty Lee rock and roll bed, in these two colours or something like that. All the loose items are out of the van. We've got the bed to remove, the headliner, seat belts, and all the other bits and pieces. The seat in particular, that's mounted in a couple of places. Now, I'm going to have to get underneath. I'll take you there with us and show you where we're going to unbolt those. And the whole unit should actually come out in one go. The rest of this bed is in storage, but once we've got the Rusty Lee unit in there, it will pretty much take up all of this space. But let's crack on with it. This bed then, let's have a quick chat about it. It's a wooden design. There's some, I don't think it's even a piano hinge, it's just 1, 2, 3 hinges. It's got a very old piece of 4-inch foam on it, which has gone really disgusted. Look, that's even just powdering away now, so that's completely dead. It's full of dust we don't want, and it's a crap design. It uses these two poles here, which when the seat's up, it's impossible to get the engine lid off. So stupid design. The new one is going to be loads better, and I'll show you how that works. If you slide the bed down, I mean, the saving grace is it supports itself with nothing underneath the bed, so it kind of supports itself. But you just see how disgusting it is. That's the colour it is now. Maybe this is some original colour. Gross. First thing to go. So from what I can see, we've got 1, 2, 3 bolts there. I'm not even going to try and undo them. So what I'm going to do is grind the tops off. The bolts should then fall through the bottom, and then we can take the bed out in one hit. I've chosen to grind the bolts out with an 80 grit flat disc, mainly because I've tried to undo bolts like this in the past. Now the nuts underneath are 30 years old and they're under the van, and they're going to be a pain to get to and everything else. So I'm going to take the heads off, and then I can knock them straight through. I know what's under here, and it's not a great deal. There's no fuel tank under there or anything. I'm going to cover the back of the vehicle, especially the fresh paint, with a bit of old material. And yeah, hopefully once those 3 are ground off, then the bed should come right out. Years of dust. Now the disgusting bed's out of the way, we're going to concentrate on the disgusting seatbelts. Now, most aftermarket vans will have seatbelts like this. Just horrible, janky, crap seatbelts. They're mounted in the wrong place, they're not reinforced, nothing like that. So what we're going to do on this van, and this will be in an upcoming video, is actually put in the right seatbelt mounts in. They're available from Brickworks, and you'll be putting a seatbelt mount here, one here. So this one and this one are going to be mounted here, and then this one here and this one will be mounted on the side. These are actually the mounting points for the factory Caravelle seat, and no, it's these two. So the factory Caravelle seat and the seatbelt mounting point are both here. So we're going to buy that entire kit from Brickworks, including the rear seat belts, and we'll go through that on another video coming up very soon. But to get these off, I'm going to try and unbolt them, but again, I don't fancy going underneath today on my own. So we'll give them a go at undoing them, and if they're not, we'll just get the grinder out and we'll just take the heads of the bolts off, push the bolts through, and then these seat belts. I'm not going to use these. I mean, they're not worth anything. The middle seat belt and the new seat belts will all be new. It gives you effectively modern safety standards and an older van. So yeah, these are going to bin. They're disgusting and old and taped together. Let's get on it. Generally, seatbelt bolts and nuts are 19mm. In some cases they'll be 17, but 19mm spanner or ratchet should do it. They weren't very tight. Nice lino flooring. So that will have a reinforcing plate behind it, and that's tucked more than likely underneath the sound deadener that's underneath this as well. So I will get under there before we do the sound deadening and remove those bolts. One place to them, that is the bin. If you can get away with not having second-hand belts like that, especially lap belts in this modern day and age, don't bother. Look at those. We'll get some new ones. One of the requests from the customer is to carpet all of the bare areas, so effectively from this point back, but we're going to be incorporating this here. For that, we've got to remove the seat belts. That's the next point. Again, it's going to be a 17 or 19mm bolt or nut, and they're fairly simple. You just need to pull this plastic off. If my hands are strong enough today, let me go and get a tool. I'm back. So you've got to remove that plastic trim. And try, as you might, to keep all the nuts, bolts and washers in the right order. I don't think these belts have ever been off ever since the van was built. So what I'm going to do is either use a little bit of tape round that assembly there so they're in the right order, but putting the plastic trim, wherever that disappeared to, put the plastic, there it is. Putting the plastic trim back on helps, so that will keep the bolt in place. And then running a piece of tape round it or a small cable tie on the end of that bolt just helps keep that in place as well. So I'll go and get a cable tie now and just show you how that does. I'm using white ones in this case, only because they're disposable. I don't like using white ones on vehicle wiring. For some reason they seem to deteriorate and crack and break quicker than black ones, so white ones I'm going to be using for this little job here. So that's cable tied on. See, already they've broken, so I pulled it too hard. Take cable tie on there. To keep the seat belts together, and I clip that into there. On to the bit I don't really want to do, but it's going to make the world of difference with the van, and that is that disgusting headlining. It's been up there 30 years. This van's probably been lived in, smoked in, slept in. They probably had campfires near it, all sorts of stuff. So there's probably all sorts of dirt, grime and contaminants within that headlining, so it's the first thing to go, which is why I'm going to be wearing a mask, I'm going to be wearing glasses, and I'm wearing gloves. But it's kind of delving into vehicle archaeology. I don't quite know how this is held up, and I don't just want to cut it all down because I might need to use it as a template, so we're going to carefully take it down. And I think we're going to start, well, first of all we're going to take the light down, so that's the first thing to come out, and then I think with the headliner we're going to start from the back, because it looks like that's a wooden panel and they've screwed it up and then carpeted around and glued it within that boot seal. So I'm going to make that the place where I'm going to start with it, and then the rest of it just looks like wooden battens that have been nailed into the metal, which is I guess how they used to do things back in the day. Let's see how it goes. Come join me. So, from what I can see, they did a wonderful job with it back in the day. They used wooden strips, screwed them to the areas where they wanted to staple the carpet to. Then they maybe started from here, pulled it tight, stapled it into the metal, into the wood. But over the time, it's just sagged. And that is the original colour, up there. And once I've taken that down, you'll be able to see, but I think at this point, I'm going to be cutting it down. We might replicate it, but in 10 years time it might sag again. So I think what we're going to do is probably replace that headlining with hardboard and then carpet that. We'll glue some battens to the roof. Yeah, we'll go about it that way. But for now, I think that's how we're going to do it. We're just going to cut this down, unscrew the battens and make a start from there. Now that disgusting headliner's gone, I'm going to concentrate on removing this old wiring, if I can. This window surround, in fact, this is only half the window surround. Ali, would you mind just grabbing that piece just up there? There we go, super. So I'm going to guess that when this was being painted, this was cut through, because I know some of these panels were replaced. So what we can do, we can fiberglass that back together, and that will mount here like that. So it creates a window surround for the whole vehicle. Otherwise, there's nothing to carpet to. So I'm going to remove the remainder of that. I'm going to get rid of all of this tape, because again, that's 30-year-old tape. And as we've seen already, you know, the adhesive's starting to give way in places. And the last thing we want to do is be carpeting on top of that, and then the glue on the tape does give way, and then the carpet falls down. So we're literally going to remove every last scrap of anything we can find, and then we'll be prepared for, you know, when we lay carpeting up there. So that's good. The van is now completely empty. Bearing in mind how empty it did look, there was still a lot of junk we took out of here. The next phase, and this applies to anybody who's converting any van, you've got to prepare all the surfaces now for your insulation, your sound deadening, your carpeting, even your woodwork. And by that I mean all of this sticky residue. If you can remove some of that, or at least make sure that it's not going to fail and lose the carpet once you've glued it up. Any bits of carpet like this, any screws that are hanging out, any remnants of tape like this, and signs of old sound deadening and ply panels as well. I've got some sandpaper, I've got a block, and I've got some Scotch-Brite. And from the top down, I'm just gonna keel the surfaces really, make sure there's no screws hanging out, any barbs of metal, anything that's gonna affect the final finish of the vehicle. So it's gonna take a little while, but the efforts and the time will be worth it, because when you then put your paneling, your carpeting, your sound deadening on top of that, you know it's not going to be coming off anytime soon. So it's preparation. Again, preparation is key. Headliner's down, walls are clean, everything's prepped apart from the cab. We're going to be sound deadening the cab and carpeting around these wheel tubs. So we've got to get, I'm not going to get all of this glue off, but I'm going to prepare it, because what it is having ultimately is a couple of seating pods, one here and one here. It's going to be storage, seating, and potentially a bed conversion, we'll see. But there's still remnants of old carpet, there's dust. We're going to be putting sound deadening in here, so we're going to be removing that 30-year-old foam as well. So cleaning out the wheel tubs basically, and then we'll get a dustpan in there and we'll clean all the crap out and make it prepared and nice for the next stage. Last thing to do before I clean is just to get the remnants of the silicone on the floor. I'm guessing the original floor was bonded down, not very well. So before we go and clean up and then lay down our insulation and sound deadening, we just scrape this off the floor. So it won't take long, just the last bit really. Well, that's been a productive day, isn't it? We've torn the headlining down, we've removed the old seat bed, we've cleaned the thing inside and out, removed the seat belts, and just got rid of 30, what did we figure out earlier? 32 years worth of grime and hair and skin and anyway, it's done, ready. Next stage is all the sound deadening and insulation. And yeah, we'll cover that in the next episode. We've got some brand new products from deadening.co.uk. So some brand new Dodo Mat gear. I can't wait to use it. I can't wait to show you more so. And don't forget, all of those bits and pieces are available at coomvalleycampers.co.uk. Don't forget that. And yeah, so stage one. I really look forward to taking you through the entire process of this. And show you what we can come up with here at Coombe Valley Campers. See you later.